mystery in your soul, waiting to shine. Pour a cup, lay the cards, let the magic flow. Every path has a meaning, every heart will know. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the highs and the lows, it's gonna be alright. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe.
Hi, I'm Joe, also known as TarotJo in the world of tarot. As a passionate tarot reader, teacher, and author, I've dedicated my life to exploring and sharing the wisdom of tarot and spirituality. Through my books, courses, and workshops, I guide people on their personal and spiritual journeys. I created this podcast as a tribute to tarot and spirituality, a space where we dive into deep and meaningful conversations with well known and emerging voices in the spiritual and tarot communities. Whether you're a seasoned tarot practitioner or just curious about the magic of the cards, this is the place for you. Would you like to be a guest on my podcast? Do you have an inspiring story to share about tarot or spirituality? I'd love to hear from you. Reach out to me at info@tarotjo.nl or send me a DM on social media. If you enjoy this podcast, please support me by liking, following, and subscribing on Spotify, YouTube, and all my social media channels. Your support means the world to me. Now, let's dive in today's episode. It's going to be another fascinating conversation. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the TarotJo Cafe. And I've got a brand new guest, and he's coming from far, but he is a little bit closer at the moment, I think. Right, Elliot? May I
Yes, I
introduce
am.
you, Mr. Elliot Adams? Tell us who you are and why you come from far and why you're now in the neighborhood, sort of.
Well, hello, Joe. Thank you so much for having me on your wonderful show. I'm so excited to talk to you. I know we met at the UK Tarot Conference, and I really enjoyed your presentation. It was absolutely brilliant. And you actually, if I remember correctly, started us all off, which was so brave and courageous. And you just did such a fantastic job. And I just think everybody loved it. My name is Elliot Adam, and I am the author of Fearless Tarot and Tarot in Love. Those are both books that are published by Llewellyn Books. And what Fearless Tarot does is it takes a fearless approach to tarot. Because when I was growing up, I don't know if a lot of your listeners had a similar experience, but you'd have a little white book with your tarot deck, and you'd look up a card like the Ten of Swords, and it would say something like death, ruin, and despair, and that was it. And I would think, God, that doesn't help me at all. If I get that card as an outcome card, I'm doomed. So I, several years ago, started to write a blog on my website, elliotoracle.com, to help people with their tarot fears and write tarot descriptions that were based on personal empowerment, where we take a symbol like the Ten of Swords, but we find a way to constructively or proactively apply it to our life so that we don't feel terrified of it. And pretty soon, my blog got 1 million clicks, and people were looking up Elliot Oracle tarot definitions all over the place. And so I was approached to write the book, Fearless Tarot, and it's all in there. And yes, I'm from America, if you can't tell from my very thick Midwestern accent.
Just a little,
Yes,
Elliot.
but I'm currently staying in England for the moment while my husband is attending school. I'm kind of visiting England and helping to support him sometimes. And he goes to Bath Spa University for cybersecurity. So I'm into tarot and like this very spiritual direction, and he's very much into computers and all of that sort of thing. So that's what brings me sort of in your neighborhood.
What a wonderful combination, you two.
Oh, we really do balance each other out, I think. Yes.
I think so too. And thank you for the wonderful words about my presentation. To be fair, I didn't have a choice about the 90 minutes that I had to start off because um, Kim just said, sending her my presentation, what I wanted to do about the tarot dating. And she said, love it. You can start. And I was like, holy peep, this is like really, really scary. And I don't know if you've listened to the podcast of Kim, but there I tell about the scary things that she did just before I had to start off the conference.
Well,
But
it did not come off that you were scared at all. In fact, you were so courageous and brave. And I think you gave all of us a little bit more courage before we all had to get up and speak at any given time. So it was wonderful. It was a great way to launch it.
thank you very much. And I people really loved it. It was a gamble, but it was a gamble turned out to be perfect. So I'm very
Mhm.
happy, and I was very happy that people played along. So actually 1 million views at your blog. So you're actually very famous, Mr. Elliot. Do I have to say Mr. Elliot now?
Well, no, not at all. You just say Elliot. That's fine. Uh, yeah, call me Elliot. But I don't think I'm so much famous. I mean, I can walk down the street and nobody knows me because tarot is such an obscure little subject, isn't it? It's not as mainstream. It's getting more mainstream.
Yeah.
But it's kind of interesting that there are some communities you can go into that don't hear about tarot at all. In fact, I think you were just telling me recently about different places you're visiting in Europe where people don't even know what tarot is.
Yeah, we were talking about Belgium, and I'm going to festivals quite a lot there. So, and they ask the honest questions, which I really love about the Belgian people. But what is tarot and what can we do with it? So I love to have this conversation with people because that's what it's all about, spreading the
Yes,
tarot word. And it's not something scary or mystical. It's just for everybody, isn't it?
yes, yes. I love it.
Yeah, and you wrote the book about the scary cards, and I always approach this too, like, okay, let's get it over and done with. What are the scary cards, and have a look at them and see what they actually mean. I mean, this is what I do during my classes.
I
Is
love it.
that what your book is about?
Absolutely. The scary cards, some people call them the sinister seven. You got the death card, of course, and then the devil, and then the tower. And then you got the three of swords, and then the eight, and the nine, and the 10 of swords. So there are some scary cards in the deck on their surface because it's symbolism, And, sometimes we'll turn over a symbol and you see a man with 10 swords in his back and blood everywhere. I mean, of course, that is a wake up call. You look at that and you say, oh my gosh, what is that? Well, tarot is a collection of symbolic wake up calls. And I'm a firm believer that our inner self, our inner wisdom, it speaks not in a literal language like English or Dutch or anything like that. It speaks in a language of symbols. And these, symbols are a language that we've been communing with as a species since we were painting them on the cave walls. And so, what tarot does is it speaks to something so deep and old within us. And it does trigger very strong feelings. But these are a collection of symbols, much like hearing a wonderful song on the radio. You think, oh, this song is speaking to me. This is my song. It resonates with me. And it's because that same language of music, symbolism, art, it's the language that the tarot taps into. And it helps us feel and bring things to the surface and articulate things that might be difficult with just language alone. That's at least the way I look at tarot.
Yeah, I always say I speak in like little card, little symbols, little pictures. I just read
Yes,
pictures, actually.
yes, that's it. That's
That's it.
exactly what it is. It's a language of pictures. And when we look at it that way, it's a collection of symbols. It's not necessarily literal. Getting the Ten of Swords does not mean, oh my gosh, I'm going to get killed in the street and be murdered, and I need to be afraid of this. Instead, we have to stop and ask ourselves, well, what is this symbol showing? Well, the symbol's showing a man who's face down and the swords are in his back. And what are swords a symbol of in the tarot? Well, they're a symbol for our thoughts, our thinking, where our mental energy goes. And what's happening with the swords? Well, they're in the man's back, which means he was turning his back to troubling thoughts, things he would rather avoid. And what happens whenever we do that? Those thoughts catch up with us anyway. We have to face and deal with those things so that we don't become a victim of them. And so when you start to talk about the tarot in a symbolic way, it's like, oh, I don't have to be afraid of dying now that I got the Ten of Swords. I need to face a shadow. I need to face an ending that might be really difficult, or I might need to face an old trauma and really feel that thing so that I can release it and it can be cathartic. So that's kind of my approach to tarot. I like to just take it in a direction that empowers people and doesn't scare them to death.
So what do you think of Hollywood? Because you're American, and Hollywood just taking the mickey out of our tarot a lot.
Yeah.
So what do you think of that?
God, I
Because
love you.
I always have this, I always tell my students, like there's this lady in films and she usually has gray hair and purple, smoke. And then she pull out the death card and then and she's saying, you're going to die.
Well,
Right?
you just hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what Hollywood does.
Yes.
And why is that? Well, it's very entertaining, isn't it? I mean, that's a really, it's taking a collective fear of something people don't understand.
Mm,
And it's giving this mysterious sorceress this power to terrify us with a fated future. I'm a firm believer that the tarot can offer us insight into the future, but it doesn't really reveal a future that's set in stone. I
mm,
feel that the future is always in motion, and the choices we make today are going to create the future we're experiencing individually in the future. And so there isn't a fortune teller who's wearing the jewel on her head with the turban who's going to turn over the death card and say the date that you're going to die. What she could do maybe is tell you that you're about to enter a time where your old way of life is symbolically dying, that a major transformation is happening within you.
yeah.
But I think that Hollywood does that to sensationalize because it gets attention. I mean, it's just like social media. What gets the most clicks is the things that make people afraid, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is very much. But I was, taking this out of proportions because people fear it a little bit, like, oh my God, what are they going to predict for me for the future?
Mm-hmm.
And this lady is very right that we're going to die because one day we will, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
predict or it doesn't even say about this card. It's just most of decks are very scary when it comes to the death card, but
Mm-hmm.
not all of them, of course. But yeah, it's a sensation, of course, but it's got nothing to do with predicting or when are we going to die. Have you seen the latest movie that about the tarot? It was like a horror kind of thriller. I went to the cinema to see it for myself. It was quite entertaining. It was got nothing to do with the tarot really, but it was a nice story. So if you want to have a fun night of thriller or horror, just have a look at the tarot.
I haven't seen that movie yet. I think the last movie that I did see with tarot incorporated into it was many years ago, and it was called The Red Violin.
Mm,
And it begins with this Italian woman who's turning over the tarot cards. I think it was like the Visconti deck or something like that.
mm,
But it was actually a really lovely way of interpreting the tarot, and it kind of weaves through the violin's life through the centuries and all of this sort of thing. So it's a really cool movie. But no, I didn't see the horror movie so much, and I'm sure I'd kind of roll my eyes at it if I did.
probably. But the fun thing about it was that if you're friends with the tarot reader, you'll survive. And I like that part. Like, hmm, people are golden when they stick to us.
That's right. Absolutely. We're very good friends, I think.
You said about prediction. Did the tarot ever predict something that's almost scary? I mean, we're not giving out any personal information as tarot readers, but maybe you can get us to a story that the tarot actually predicted things that you will even were amazed about this. Have you experienced this?
Well, it's very interesting. I feel every tarot reader's method is a little different. And maybe the way that I experience tarot or read it might not be the same as someone else or you or other readers that I totally respect and love how they do the tarot. That's the beautiful thing about the tarot is it's very diverse.
Mm,
Everyone who interacts with the cards brings their own life experiences and gifts intellect and all of that. With my method, when I read tarot cards, I flip over cards and I almost just kind of go into a flow of speech where I just start to talk through the symbols and I don't know what I'm saying. So it's not as if I'm looking at the cards and thinking, oh, well, this card means this. So are you going through this? No, I just kind of go through the narrative and kind of blah, 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 prattle through the cards. But I don't have a consciousness for like, oh, I know what this person's going through. I just kind of read the symbols. And it's always at the end, the person says to me, holy shit. Like this is talking about this and that's going on about that. And I think, wow, well, I'm glad that you got something out of that, but when I'm doing it, I feel a little detached from it. I feel almost a little removed from it. And I found that when we're predicting frightening things, I mean, I've been reading tarot cards since I was 16 years old for the public. And I would say things sometimes to people that were going through something difficult. Let's say that they had a difficult diagnosis with their health or something. And there are certain card combinations and things that you see that do look like they're very serious. But oftentimes the people that I'm talking to already know what's going on. So it's not really a big surprise to them. I like to joke to people, I kind of tell people what they already know already. I
Mhm.
just make it a little louder and really kind of confirm what they already kind of suspect in themselves or whatever's going on. And so a lot of times when difficult subjects like that come up, they might feel amazed that I'm bringing it up, but I don't feel like, oh, I'm so good. I said this and I knew it. I don't know anything, that I'm saying. I just kind of let it go. But a lot of times they'll circle around and say, but yeah, this is really talking about something serious. I'm going through this difficult diagnosis and absolutely I'm really afraid of this. And this is giving me some peace of mind to know that this is how I should approach it. Because, in life, bad things do happen. And we don't want to sugarcoat in our tarot readings when someone is going through a difficult thing. But we also want to remind people that although you can't choose what happens to you in life, you always get to choose how you're going to respond to it, no matter how bad it is. And tarot is wonderful for reacquainting people with their courage so they can handle even the hard stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it's wonderful. I always feel privileged that I'm able to do this. And like you, I'm very intuitive. And sometimes it's like, where does this come from? Like it comes from the intuitive level. And that's
Yes.
all about, skip the thinking and start feeling. And this is something
Ah, yes.
that's what I always try to my students to feel like, okay, this is brilliant what you're saying about this card, but what do you feel? And then they have to like, oh, and then the magic happens. That's how I
Oh, yes. You are right. Absolutely. And I love that that's a method that you share with your students because I think that's what makes a really great tarot reader is when they can listen not so much to the critical part of their brain, which is like, oh no, I have to remember what the justice card reverse means. And I have to prattle off this definition that I read in a book because I have to memorize all of it. And instead it's like, no, 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 no. Look at what this card is saying in your heart and just let it flow. And you will absolutely speak the meaning in the right way.
exactly. I mean, I've written 7 books, but I always skip the books and say, okay, let throw some cards because that's the way to learn it, not from
Yes.
books or anything. Even though I've written so many books, but I don't know. And I always say intuitive feelings, interpretations are the number one, not the book
Mhm.
or anything. That's the one that we follow. So, and this will mean that they will get the confidence about their intuition and they tap more into it. I mean, nothing's wrong for me. Like when I always interact with my students, everything is and not just
Mm.
separate things. Everything's okay and everything's right. So if you get
Yes.
out of this system or yeah, this is right and this is wrong, then the intuition can flow, right?
Yes, it's kind of like what I was describing, where, when I sit down for a reading, Elliot sits outside the room and I am now in service just to the symbols.
Yeah.
And I found that when we can just talk through the symbols and explain to people what they're discussing in their life or what we feel from them, they will take that information we're giving them and they'll know exactly where to apply it. It will absolutely hit the mark every time. But when we make it about us, I'm Elliot and I know what the Justice card reverse means. It means this. And I think I remember what the Three of Wands reverse means too. So it means that. Then we're not resonating. We're not touching on something that's more intuitive or that's really interacting or playing with the symbols.
Yeah. I mean, you can analyze cards, which makes a great
Sure.
spread, I always say. I mean, it's nothing wrong with that, but there's a whole world of intuition. I always try to address that. I mean,
Hmm.
um, sometimes I don't know if you do a lot of readings too, right? For people.
That's the
So,
only job I have. Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Um, well, you do talks as well. I mean, but
Sometimes, yeah.
I don't put a lot of cards on the table. It's like things flow. I don't know. What's your method? Do you throw a lot of cards, which is also brilliant, of course, but I'm not very much of a lot of cards that are on the table. Just a few, and then the intuition picks it up.
Love that. It depends on how much time a person has booked with me. Obviously, if it's 15 minutes, I don't have time for 30 cards to go through. So we'll do a small spread or focus on something that way. It really depends on the person. Some people like to come to a tarot reading with a very specific question and want to know exactly how this part of their life is panning out, what they need to understand about it. Some people are a little more testing. They want to make sure that they're getting a reading that is not from somebody who's just flim flam and just speaking out of anything. So they'll say, I don't know, you tell me, what do I need to know? Or they'll say, I just want a general reading. Whatever comes up, we'll just trust the symbols. And sometimes I have to go into a reading and just be blind and just read through the symbols. But again, if you trust the symbols, you're going to be okay. A longer session, sometimes I'll use a more elaborate spread. In my book, Fearless Tarot, I have a spread called the Extended Celtic Cross. I've been using it for over 30 years, or almost 30 years. I started when I was 15. And it is a spread that's kind of a variant of the Celtic Cross 10 card spread, but instead of one card for every position, I use three. And so for each position, I'm able to look at, well, what's going on with their unconscious, what's going on with their emotional state right now, and what's going on in the physical world right now. And it kind of gives a more nuanced view, more complex view of what the person's experiencing on many levels, because a lot of times we're not just going through one thing at a time. We're
Mm.
not just dealing with a crisis with nothing else good in our life. It's all or nothing. Sometimes there's like different nuances and layers, and it's kind of fun to touch on those things. So that's a little bit more of an elaborate spread that takes about 50 minutes to get through. But it depends. And there, I just want your listeners to know there is no one true right way to read tarot. I am not Tarot Moses coming off of the mountain with the laws of this is how tarot is read, and this is what this means, and this is how you have to do it, or you're doing it wrong.
Mm.
Tarot is something that is so unique to each person that interacts with it. And all of us bring this beauty and this uniqueness to our perspective and our intuition and our gifts. And that's just what makes it so lovely. I love going to a tarot conference and learning from a TarotJo and seeing how TarotJo's method is and how she goes into the different topics. And I love to learn from Kim or from Teresa Reed, or everybody's got some special way of doing this, and it's just so fascinating. You will never stop learning.
No, and everybody's got his or her own method. This is something
Hmm.
I always like say to my students, find your own thing. I mean, I can give you some leads, but this is it. The
Yeah.
rest you have to figure it out. And some of my students are on TikTok and some are on Instagram, and sometimes I'm looking at them and I'm so proud that they found their
Yeah.
own ways of doing it. And it's not like my way, but I always tell them like, don't be me, because you're your own amazing person. So you have to create your own amazing way of reading the tarot. And this is always something I always give them, like the confidence, hopefully, to do it too.
Oh my God, I love that. I in my book Fearless Tarot, I wrote in the Five of Wands chapter about competition and comparison and how sometimes we look at other people and we're constantly measuring ourselves. And my favorite singer of all time, if anyone who ever knows me, is it's Judy Garland. I love Judy Garland. And she had a wonderful quote where she said, "Always be a first-rate version of yourself instead of a second-rate version of somebody else." And I think that is just such a great gem of wisdom. You got to be a first rate version of you. It's apples and oranges. It doesn't matter what I do tarot like or Joe does tarot like. You are going to have your own unique thing, and you need to be a first rate version of you.
Yes, there's room for everybody, I always say, and
Mm,
there's no competition. There's only colleagues, I always call them.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
hope everybody is like, oh, there's room for everybody, and
yeah.
there's a client for everybody. It's like
Oh, yes.
people would attract like, oh, Elliot, he looks so marvelous, and he is. And some people would say, oh, Joe, she looks so marvelous, and attract
And
to,
some people say Elliot doesn't resonate with me,
oh,
or
that's
I
fine,
actually I like going into tarot more with this sort of style, a little bit more free, a little bit more this or a little more that, and that's fine.
fine.
As you say, every the people who are meant to be around you, you'll attract, and
Yeah,
the people that you repel, you know what? That's good for them to find who is going to speak to them.
exactly. I mean, there's so much, there's so many people who have like so many different questions and needs. I mean, there's room for everybody. That's what I believe always.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. I think
So,
that's very wise.
so if you have to pick one card from the tarot deck, like that's me, who's going to be that person? Who
Oh,
is
uh,
Elliot in the tarot?
I think it's changed over the years. There have been cards that in my early years I would have resonated with a lot more. But as you get older, you start to resonate with other cards. And so, my gosh, I'm always torn. Sometimes I will go with a minor arcana court card. And it also depends on the deck. Some decks have swords as fire and wands as air. And some decks have wands as fire and swords as air. I've found as well, sometimes at a different time in my life, maybe I'm as a Libra aligning more with the Justice card, or maybe I'm aligning with the Princess of Wands and in a Witch's Tarot, or maybe I'm really aligning with a Knight of Swords and another. But lately, this week, I've been really feeling the Magician card more and more. I've been really feeling like that's the card. And sometimes, for an exercise for people listening, if you don't know who you are in the tarot, go through the deck and look at all the cards and put to the side cards that really feel like they talk about you, and have a little pile going on there, and then put them all face down, all the cards that you thought kind of seem like you, and place your hand over each card. And if you start to feel a little tingling in your fingertips over one of those cards that's face down, turn that card over, and that's who you are right now. And I've been doing that lately. I've had my Princess of Wands and my Knight of Wands and my, King of Wands and this card, and then the Magician. And I put my hand over it, and then I feel a little tingle, and I'm like, it's always the Magician these days.
Well, the magician is a wonderful card. I mean, it's really, really, it resonates with me as well. But yeah, it's a wonderful card, and it's at the same time, it's not like the magician knows it all. I can do it all. I mean, it's sometimes we have to figure things out too, and sometimes we grab a different element that we're not supposed to have in that situation. But then we learn, right?
I love that. And I love your interpretation so much because you just unconsciously described to me why I'm picking the magician. And it's because I have all these options. I could be on the altar, I could be the cup, I could be the wand, I could be the whatever. And I'm borrowing from those, but I'm the magician because I'm able to kind of wear those different clothes, pick up those different tools when I need them. And you just gave that to me. Thank you. I
You're
love that.
very welcome. You're very welcome. And this is what tarot is all about. I mean, whenever we say something or whenever we read a card, there's always a message, sometimes for this person, sometimes for someone else. I mean, it just goes. I mean, I always do the Mariella has the 11-day Reiki experience, and I'm the bonus topic, and I always, throw cards for people who are there, and I just pick people from a list and I do readings, and I always say to them, listen very carefully because this can be your reading as well, not just for the person I pick from the list, but sometimes it's like, hey, this is me. Like you said,
Yeah.
like sometimes it resonates really much with a different person. So, and this helps people a lot. Like, oh my God, I had like 10 readings. That that
I
doesn't
love
help.
that.
Yeah. So, what deck is your favorite deck to use
Well,
at the moment?
I
Maybe you've changed too.
it's always changing, but
It's this
as
one,
a
right?
traditionalist,
It's this
oh
one.
my God, I need that deck, Joe. I need that deck. I need the little Joes in every card.
No, 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 not every
Yeah.
card. That would be very scary.
I love it. Um, for my daily readings lately, I have been using a deck that I got as a gift from a friend of mine in Delphi, Greece. And if people don't know where Delphi is, it's in the mountains. It's where the ancient oracle of Apollo used to give her readings to people from all over the world. For over 2,000 years, a line of priestesses would give the oracle from Delphi. And I always feel home there. I always feel called there. I have friends there. And one of my friends owns a little shop there called Prometheus. But while I was there last time in October, it was for my birthday, and he gave me a deck of tarot cards, and it's the Oswald Worth tarot. It's an older deck, and it's a little bit more in the style of the Marseille deck. Where the pip cards aren't as illustrated. But I wasn't attracted to the imagery, but I was amazed at how accurate they were. I just couldn't believe how questions I might have had. I'd flip over these cards from this deck that I didn't think visually was really that stimulating, but just the message is great. So I actually use that deck every day with my clients that call me from all over the place. But I also, on my Elliott Oracle website, I have tarot descriptions for the Rider Waite Smith deck, which everybody's usually familiar with. It's the most popular deck. A lot of decks take their symbolism and borrow it from that. And there's full analysis. So if anyone's out there struggling with a tarot card and or I'm just having trouble with the Seven of Swords, I don't know how to apply this to my situation. You can just Google Elliott Seven of Swords, and my blog will come up, and you'll be able to see what that card means, and I'll dissect the symbolism on the Rider Waite Smith deck. But I love the Pagan Other Worlds tarot. I love the Witches tarot. There's just so many decks out there. And I'm also just finishing a tarot deck that I've been drawing for the last 25 years. I'm almost done with the book to go along with the deck, but this is based on Greek mythology because, as I said, I love Delphi. I love ancient Greece. I studied classics in college, and I love the language and all of that. And this is all based on the Greek myths, and it ties tarot and Greek myths together. And that should be coming out this year or next year. So yeah, it's a lot of decks I love. I'm sure you're the same. I mean, it's like picking your favorite child. How do you do such a thing? There's so many.
I
There's
know.
so many lovely ones.
It's a lot of work, but you've drawn all the cards?
Again and again and again, maddeningly. So when I started, I didn't know anything about art when I was 18, and I would draw the Fool card, and he'd have an enormous head and a small body because I didn't have any proportion. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just felt like I need to put Dionysus on the Fool card and make this. So then I get through the 78 cards, and then my art improved because you're practicing, you're making it. And I'm like, well, now the 78th card doesn't look anything like the first card. I mean, it's so much better art. So I have to go back and do all of them again. I have been
No.
doing
This is
this for
actually this is actually
25 years.
this is the visualization of your life. You shouldn't overdo it. I mean, you should keep it in.
Overdone it. I've overdone it. And, as my drawing's gotten better, I felt like this is more my vision. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I want it to be just right. And I would hate to spend the rest of my life picking a tarot card that I drew and just hating the way the face looked, or hating the hand, or hating this. So, I'm happy with what I have now. It's done. It's at
Okay.
the
Excellent.
lady who's refining it. I'm not going to do any more drawing. but I'm writing the accompanying book right now. That's where my energy is really going, and
Yeah.
I just love it. It's so fun.
It sounds amazing. I can't wait to see and look at it,
Oh,
like how it's going to
well, I'll
be.
send you a copy of it. Yes.
That'll be great. That'll be great. And it's a lot of work. And I've said with the unique tarot deck, it's once in a lifetime, never going to do this again because
It
oh
is a
my
lot of
God,
work. It is.
it is an ordeal. But once it's there, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, we just
Yes.
got the new shipment in from France because I
Wow.
put it in France, and then you see all these decks like, oh my God, this is amazing. They all need, all these babies need new owners.
Yeah, I love that. I can't wait to experience that feeling. I felt something similar when my first book was published, and
Yeah,
you
it
get
is.
the
Yeah.
box from the publisher, and you open it up, and there it is. It's real. It's like actually in my
So,
hands. It's so exciting, and I can't wait
yeah.
till I feel that way about the tarot deck too.
You will, and it will be amazing, no doubt. And like you
Oh,
said, you have to have something that you feel good about. I mean, I can have this
hmm,
feeling about, no, just leave it in. This was the 18-year-old Elliot. But if you don't feel like
yeah,
it resonates with me anymore, then you have to change it. I agree.
you do, you do.
But as a perfectionist myself, I had to really let go of some of my perfectionism because it was like it will never be done
It
otherwise.
will never be perfect. It will never be 100%. And you are absolutely correct. In fact, I think my husband staged an intervention where he said, "That's it. You are not allowed to do this again anymore. I've been seeing you do this for the last 14 years. You've got to stop it since I met you." But yeah, we have to stop at some point. Funny story about that. When I met my husband, the day I met him, I was drawing the Ace of Cups with Aphrodite becoming born out of the foam out of the sea. And, it's so interesting. I don't know if this was your experience when you were working on your tarot deck, but things would happen in your life at the time you were working on certain symbols that reflected the symbol you were working on. Did you have that too? That happened to me all the time.
Well, with my tarot deck, it was like my students and people who love the tarot, they adopted their cards, and
Mhm.
they could write a story about the card, and this story went to the artist, and the artist made, a card out of this. So it's what I found very fascinating is that a lot of people who got picked from, like the Seven of Cups, for example, that's here, they really have these issues. They really have these things in life that they go through. So it's like
Mhm.
it it was connected to their energy, and um, you know, lots of people who got their card, they did this out of intuition, like, oh, I
Yes,
feel
yes.
that this needs to be on the card, and this, which is
Mhm.
quite different than the Rider-Waite Smith, but it really worked well. So, and sometimes I added a little bit to it, like, oh, I really want this symbol or this symbol, like, but the rest was just designed by everybody who adopted the card. So it was different. For me, it was a little bit different because I had to let this go because not all the
Yeah.
cards were in my hands. I mean, that would be
Yes.
scary to have 78 TarotJos on the cards. That'll be, no,
Well, it sounds like your deck creation is really fascinating. It sounds more collaborative.
it
It
is.
sounds like there's a lot of influence coming from many different directions. I think that's just fascinating. It'd be interesting to talk to each person and ask them, why did you pick that symbol at that time, and why did you suggest that for the card? What was going on in your life? It's interesting.
Well, I'm going to ask them. I mean, I don't have a book with my deck, but it's all
Mm,
online. So you scan the QR code and then you've got the book online. And
nice.
going to ask them to write a story about their cards. Why did you pick this? Why is it, why did it resonate with this? So I have a little bit of space of that, and I can make it as long as I want, right? So,
I love that.
so whenever people want to read that, I mean, there's so much, like you say, there's so much you can learn from the tarot and from each other. And I thought, I remember one person who said, I want to be the knight of pentacles, and I don't want to have a
Mm.
horse, but I want to have a dragon. I was thinking like,
Ooh.
I don't know, there's no dragons in there or anything. And I figured like, okay, Joe, you got to let this go because they design their own cars, and it became
Hmm.
amazing, an amazing, amazing card. So I left it in,
Mm.
like, why
I
not?
love that.
Why
I
not?
love that. Yeah. Why not be free? Yeah.
I mean, nobody tells you like you have to do it like this. And I'm certainly not a person like that. And I don't believe you
Yeah.
are.
No, not at all. I don't think tarot should be a fundamentalist pursuit at all.
No, no.
Yeah.
I just do it my way, like Frank Sinatra. Everything my
I love
way.
him too. Gosh. Him and Judy. Yes.
Him and Judy. Um, so when will it be due, your deck? Any idea, or will it pressure you too much?
I'm finishing up the end of the Pentacle suit right now, the last three court cards, and then I just have the wand suit to do, and the book will be done. And the digital artist has already taken all my colored pencil drawings and has, refined them and all of that sort of thing. So the cards are ready, and the publisher's waiting. I just have to finish this book, and I think hopefully I'll get it done in March and maybe get this off to the publisher this summer and maybe see something by fall or winter.
So maybe in October when we see each other again.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? I'd love to bring those to the
Yeah.
UK Tarot Conference. That would be absolutely fantastic. Yes.
You have a different gig as well, a different talking gig.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
when is that? Tell us all about it and
Well,
what you're going to do. Can you tell us a little bit what you're going to talk about there?
yes, I'll reveal that now. I'm doing a tarot conference in late July in Manchester, England. And I'm super excited about that. Uh, and it is going to be Whispers of the Goddess, the Divine Feminine in the Tarot. And so, what I'm going to do is talk about the Divine Feminine and how she shows up so much in the Tarot, because a lot of our Western traditions, they forget the goddess, they forget the Divine Feminine. There's an emphasis on the patriarchal symbolism, but the tarot is really lovely because there's the divine feminine in there. You can see her in the high priestess card. You can see her in the nurturing empress. You can see her with the queens. So I'm going to go in through a little tour of the divine feminine and how that shows up in the tarot and how that might speak to people in their lives. I have to fully admit, though, I haven't written anything yet, and I don't know how I'm going to organize it, but I just felt really called to do the divine feminine because I've always loved the goddesses, and I think it'll be a lot of fun to see her many faces in the tarot and the Rider Waite Smith deck.
Lovely, lovely. It comes to mind, doesn't it? Like
Mm,
it will happen out of intuition. That's how it works
yes,
with me.
yeah, I think so too. And I mean, the symbols are all there. I don't need to really write anything. I
No,
just have to talk about where she's at and where she shows up and how that might apply to people's lives. And all of us, we have different archetypes within us. The tarot is a collection of us, isn't it?
it is.
The different pieces of it are different facets of ourself. And so when we're talking about the goddesses in the tarot or the different archetypes, we're really identifying little parts of ourselves that we get to understand more. And sometimes different parts of ourselves feel stronger at different times or a little bit more resonant than at other times. And so I think it'll just be a lot of fun for people to be able to play with the goddesses and feel the goddess within and how that's resonating with what's going on in their life.
Connect with your feminine side.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. And I love the way you say like the 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 goddesses. I mean, I always say the feminine side, but I'm going to skip to goddesses. I'll take that from you. I'll steal that one from you.
Well, I love mythology, and that's my Achilles heel. So
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
to bring it to goddesses. Yes.
Lovely. Are you going to do spread too with the audience, like
Of
in the
course, we're
corner?
going to have interactive fun. I hate getting up to speak in front of people and just talking at them. I'm sure you're the same way. Isn't it fun to just watch people play and
I love
enjoy
it.
what they're doing? And oh yeah, and you get to see their creativity take off. I can't ever just sit and talk at people. That's so boring, you know?
Oh, I mean, I love to talk, but I love to work with tarot
Yes,
cards. This is the thing
yes.
I always like to do. Maybe you do some tarot dating as well there?
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. I did enjoy that tarot dating. That was such a lovely icebreaker too, right at the beginning. For those of you who weren't at the conference, TarotJo did a lovely thing called tarot dating, where everybody would hook up with someone across the room that they didn't know, and you would discuss the cards that you had chosen, and it would start conversations with people that maybe you'd be too shy to talk to, or maybe you'd be too afraid to say, oh, well, there's that person over there, and I read their book, and I'm so nervous to talk to them. How do I ever say anything to them? And now there's an excuse because you have Tarot Joe's quick speed dating, and you get to go over there and talk to them,
Yep.
and then you make friendships, and that was just, it was perfect that you were first because it really did help the whole room get to know each other in some regards and make connections that they might have not otherwise made.
No, that's what Kim said too. Like people were writing to her like, "This was amazing. Thank you, Kim, for doing
Hmm.
this." It said, "No, no, this was all Joe." Like
Oh,
because I was there the year before, and I found it very intimidating. So many people, and some people were
oh yes,
the groups, like, and
yes,
they
yes.
were there for like the 20th time, and I was there for the
Yeah,
first time, like.
that
So
was me. Yes.
yeah, yeah. So I was a bit lost, I remember back then, and then it came to mind to me like it was some sort of the dream, and like wouldn't it be great in the world year to connect
Mm,
in this way? So
mm.
I'm going to do this again in Australia, although it's not
Oh, I
all
love
about
that.
the world card, but I believe that we are there to connect, right? We're there to,
Yes,
like, what have you got? What I can learn? What can I learn from
yes,
you? And
yes.
what's your interpretation? I mean, I love to talk to people and I love to make connections with people.
Hmm. Me
That's
too.
that's what I like
Yeah,
to
I
do.
love it. I'm an introverted extrovert, you know.
Me
I
too.
like my time to just be alone and study and kind of just reflect and all of that. But then there is a part of me that also does want to collaborate and get to know other people. And I think it's good for us to sometimes get out of our head. You know, not everybody's an extrovert and they don't have to be, but sometimes it's helpful to have a little bit of a nudge to talk to somebody that you might be too scared to talk to. It really does help you grow.
Yeah, I think so too. And like people think if you're do talks like, oh, she's just the one or he's one who would just approach anybody, but I'm not like that at all. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
for me, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to do this,
yeah.
but I'm scared to death. And if
Yes.
you have something interaction like the tarot dating, then it doesn't matter. Like you said, like, oh, I know Elliot, and normally I wouldn't know how to approach him, like, and now it was like, yeah, let's do it. See what he got to
I
say.
love it. I love it. You know, Eleanor Roosevelt used to say, you must always do the thing you're afraid to do. And it's true because that's where your breakthrough is. And we all have anxiety. We're all scared. We're all nervous. We all, might feel like, well, what do I have to offer? Maybe people think I'm a big fraud. Maybe I don't have anything good. Maybe I don't know what I'm doing. That's our inner saboteur. And
Yep.
we got to do it anyway. We got to go forward even when we're afraid. Because that's what's going to make us grow. It's going to make us have a breakthrough. It's going to make us make connections that change our lives instead of staying scared and passive and afraid.
Yeah, I always say I try to do one thing every week that I'm scared of,
Oh, I
and
love that.
that is like intimidating. Like I don't know if people want to say yes to, being a guest on a podcast or
Yes, yes.
do a collaboration or do whatever. Just do it anyway. Because
Do
if
it
you
anyway.
don't ask, you're not gonna get it. Nobody can
That's
read
right.
your mind. Nobody can know. I'm like,
That's right.
oh, Elliot wants to have a talk here, or
Yeah,
ask.
yes. And
That's
the worst they can say is no.
yep,
And most people will say no graciously because they have something else going on or whatever, and that's fine. But
yep,
yes, you should just do it. It's not so terrifying. And how powerful you feel after you do it. And you're
yeah,
like, I did that. I've got things lined up now. I'm ready to go. It feels so good.
yeah. So, what are the things that you really want to do that you're still scared of doing, and about a
Well,
tarot?
I'd like to go to Egypt. Like to see
Egypt.
Egypt one day. Yes, that would be lovely. What would I do that want to do that I'm afraid to do? I think I'm a naturally anxious person. I'm sure a lot of people out there who read tarot are because we're sensitive people, and so I absolutely get nervous about approaching certain people or asking for something or putting my name in the hat for getting selected for this thing or that thing. Or even I'll tell you something I'm really terrified about putting my tarot deck out into the world. You know, I won't be able to adjust it anymore. What if people hate it? What if it's just a big failure? Blah, blah, blah. You got to do it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating. I've that sounds really strange when I say it, but I've never thought about this. Like, oh, now what? It's with books, yes, the really end of the books, and to finish it off,
Yeah.
and then thinking like,
Yeah.
will people like it or not? And then I was like, if
Yeah.
people like it, they don't buy it. That's fine.
That's it. That's it.
But the tarot deck, I can understand your approach because this is your baby. This is, of course,
Mm.
the unique tarot deck is my baby too. But more than 50 people collaborated with it, so it's like us
Yeah.
out there.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I let go of the fact that things need to be perfect because they're never going to be perfect. But
Yeah. That's
imperfection
a
is
great,
perfection as well. Like,
yeah. That's a great lesson that I have to remind myself of. I'm still learning to let go of being a perfectionist. Before I went back to tarot full time, so I started as a tarot reader and I had a shop when I was a kid. When I was like 20, I opened it and I did that for years. And then I went to university and got away from tarot for a little while because I would go to parties and people would say, oh, well, Marissa's in school for being a dentist and Stan is going into accounting. What do you do, Elliot? And I'd say, I have a tarot shop. And they'd say, that's really scary and weird.
yeah,
Or they'd say, that's a scam. Or they'd say, oh my God, really? That's such a joke. And so I would think, oh my God, because this was back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Tarot wasn't as popular then. And I would think, oh my God, there's something wrong with me because I do this work that's illegitimate and people don't like. So I
yeah.
also played the oboe and I went to music school for many years. And I became a doctor of music and played in the symphony orchestras and made all the oboe reeds. But to be a musician, you have to be a perfectionist. It has to be perfect, or you get fired, or the maestro throws you out of the orchestra, whatever. So I learned a lot of good habits about work ethic, but a lot of bad habits about perfectionism with music. And letting go of that now, it's so helpful, so healing for me.
It is. So we didn't really talk about how did you start the tarot? I mean,
Hmm.
how did it all start with you? Did you get a tarot
Yeah.
deck or did you?
Well, my mom had a new boyfriend, and she was a troubled woman, in those days. She was an alcoholic, and I didn't have a very stable childhood. We were very poor. And she met a new boyfriend, and we moved in to his house because we didn't have a place to go. And he had millions of antiques up in his attic. And one day I went up to his attic. I was about 14. And I was going through boxes, and they had stuffed animals like taxidermy, like big wolves and scary things. It was like the never-ending story movie, with the wolf in the attic and all of that. Well, then there was a little crystal ball, and I said, "Ooh, that's cool." And then I moved the crystal ball and opened a box, and there was a deck of tarot cards. And I said, what is this? And I opened it up and looked through the cards and I said, oh, who is the Queen of Wands? I got to know who the Queen of Wands is. Oh, the Empress. Who is the Empress? This is so fascinating. Well, my family at the time was very conservative Christian and very afraid of tarot because they thought it was witchcraft and evil and all of this. So one of my family members threw my tarot deck away and said that I wasn't allowed to read that. But my brother went to the army and to Germany. And he met a bunch of friends there who read tarot cards in Germany. And when he came back to America, he heard that I had found a deck of tarot cards and he pulled me aside and he said, Elliot, I heard they threw away your tarot deck. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go downtown to the tarot store and we're going to buy you a new deck and you're not going to tell anybody. And I'll buy you a book and you are going to love it because I met these wonderful people in Germany. And so there I was, 15 years old, and I started reading the cards. I'm 45 now, so that's 30 years ago. And I loved it. And pretty soon I got well known in my neighborhood, and a tea house asked me to read cards there. And there I was, 16 years old, and I'm telling people about how to get through their divorce or where to put money in the stock market or whatever. Pretty soon I had a following and then a shop, and it just kind of took off. So I started very young. And I'm glad I did, because I wasn't a perfectionist then. When you're young, you're invincible, and you could just do anything, right?
Right. What a lovely story. And lots of things happen on an attic, like
Yeah,
finding
yeah.
these treasures. It sounds very aligned. Do you believe that about
Yes.
alignment?
Oh, I do. I do. I think one way or the other in this lifetime, I would be doing some sort of work where I'm speaking to people on that deeper level. And whether that would have been through music continually, or whether it would have been through being an artist or being a tarot card reader. I mean, I never thought I'd write a book. That's crazy. I never wanted to write a book. I was writing a blog just so that I could promote my business and get on the map so people could see, the way I looked at tarot. But by the time the blog was done, I had a book, and then I was an author suddenly. It's funny how serendipity happens in your life and things line up at certain times, and it's all meant to be, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If you just follow the signs, and how
Yeah.
wonderful of your brother. Did you ever thank him for bringing
Oh, he gets it.
treasure?
I thank him every time I bring him up on the podcast interviews, or anytime someone asks the story about how I found tarot cards. And he's a wonderful man, and always been so supportive of my tarot. And it's so important to have that. And even the people that were afraid in my family of tarot at first, the family member who threw the cards away, for example, they all get readings now. They all love tarot readings,
Mhm.
because they see that it's not something to be afraid of. It's actually something that can really change someone's life in a very powerful way. It
And
changed mine.
yeah, you change yours, but their life as well, because they
Hmm.
now realize, oh, something's in for me, and this is something that
Yeah,
I can really resonate with. Isn't that amazing?
yes.
We
I love
do
it.
change lives, don't we?
Yes, absolutely.
We do change lives. So you have this deck out, but surely there will be a new book.
Yes, there's the deck and the book, but I'm sure I've been talking to Llewellyn, and we've been, throwing some ideas around for maybe a next book, a third book with them. But I have to finish this tarot deck first. I just have to get it out of the way so I can move on with my life and do something else.
Yeah, it is something that you really need to put focus on, like, and
Yes,
put
yes.
energy in. Yeah. So the new book, can you tell us a little bit what the new book will be about?
I don't have it all fleshed out yet, so I'm going to keep that under my hat.
Uh,
So after the tarot deck's done, then I'm going to get really serious about being clear about the tarot. But as all my books are, I can just say this, that it will always take tarot to a place that empowers people and that opens up a dialogue with your inner self, with your inner wisdom, because everybody out there listening, you already have the answers within you. And sometimes we just need that little tool, that little nudging to clarify what that thing is that's trying to be understood.
right. So what's the thing that nobody knows about Elliot Adam, that we need to know about?
I mean, I'm sure there's a lot.
Tell us one of your
God,
secrets.
well, what is one of my secrets? Goodness
One that we don't
gracious.
know, yeah. I mean, we know that you're an amazing musician as well, but what else do we
Hmm.
need to know that you are?
Well, after I stopped playing the oboe, I started playing the harp. I love the harp now. I have one in my house. It's very relaxing and therapeutic. What do a lot of people not know? I grew up not with anything really, very poor, sometimes didn't even eat, sometimes didn't have a home, really had to learn early how to survive. And I think that helped me be a better reader at an early age, because when you survive difficulties and challenges and alcoholic parents and things that you're exposed to that show you suffering and difficulties, it gives you empathy. It gives you an ability to meet other people who are suffering where they're at. So, you know, sometimes in our business, don't we like to project the sunny side, the best of us, the smile and people look and they think, oh, their life must be perfect, or they don't have any problems, or oh, he wrote a book about fearless tarot, so he doesn't have any fear. I mean, he's completely fearless and all that. It's no, no, no. A lot of times, some of the best things that we make come out of some of the most difficult tragedies and challenges of just being alive. And again, we get to really take those things that maybe other people don't see on the surface or don't see beneath with us. And it helps us be human. It helps our humanity. It helps us connect with people. It helps us empathize with what might they be going through.
Yeah, without the rain, no rainbows, right?
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the way it
Yeah.
is. Um, so we are in a brilliant age of new things. What will be the next new thing in tarot, you think?
Oh my. Well, I think it's infinite. I mean, I think there's new things every day happening with tarot. Um, I think that, you know, if we're asking just very academically, I think that there's more of an interest right now in the Thoth tarot, the Crowley deck. A lot of people are really getting into that more. There's more people really working intensively with that deck or the Marseille deck. You know, Rider Waite Smith deck has been the main thing, but I think other readers out there are starting to delve into these other decks and even decks that have been around maybe only since the 1980s and a little further. You know, other people are starting to look at those valuable works and bring their insights and new, fresh things to it. So I think tarot is constantly evolving and well, I mean, it's symbolism, so everybody's going to take a different thing away from it and bring their own gift.
Yeah. So what will tarot be in 50 years from now that
Oh,
they're over 100 years old and we're the ancient ones. What will tarot look like? Do you have any vision?
oh, the hell if I know. I think what tarot will be in 50 years is what it has been in the last 400, which is endlessly fascinating and a very useful tool that stood the test of time because it opens up that dialogue with your inner self. I think a lot of things about tarot at their core are going to remain the same, which is that there's just a wealth of insight you can gain into yourself when you interact with these magical symbols.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to, of course, it will evolve in a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
but we still need the inside world that we forgot all about, and that's
Mm.
what the tarot is picturing to us. It's been lovely to talk to you, and I can talk to you
Oh.
for hours and hours and
I could talk to
hours.
you for hours. And when I see you in England, in London, we are going to have a wonderful chat. And I loved meeting your lovely wife too. And it's just so terrific to have met you this last year. Thank you for being so welcoming. And thank you for graciously inviting me to be on your wonderful show. I can't wait to listen to the other episodes too and all the other
Yes,
fascinating people you're going to bring in.
yes, we will bring in a lot of fascinating people, but we already talked to a lot of fascinating people as well.
Yes.
So, if people want to contact you or want to know more about you, where should they go?
Well, like I said, I have tons of free tarot materials online. And you can go to my website, elliotoracle.com. You can type in the High Priestess, Elliot, and you will get a Google result that shows a little 1 minute video clip of me telling you what the High Priestess means, very quick. Or you can read my blog post that takes a fearless approach to tarot. And if you really like my approach to tarot, you can also go to the bookstores or whatever and order Fearless Tarot or Tarot in Love. My YouTube channel this last year, also called Elliot Oracle, it's just been blowing up. It's been really lovely. And every week I do an animal oracle and I do a monthly tarot scope and a daily card. So there's just tons of ways to find me online. You just find Elliot Oracle and you'll see my Instagram, my YouTube, all of that stuff. And you can just have a lot of fun with a lot of free materials. Or if you want to schedule a reading with me, You can also do that at elliotoracle.com too.
Yeah, yeah, you can't miss him. I mean, just find him on Instagram. He's doing amazing stuff with almost daily, I think you do
Yeah, yeah,
cards, and
every day.
it's amazing, 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 and amazing energy. Thank you so much, Elliot, for making the time for us in your busy schedule. I really, really loved it.
Oh,
And I put the link under this video so people can click on it. And thank you again. And we'll see each other in October, but we'll stay in touch, no doubt.
I hope so. And I can't wait. And thank you, my friend. It's so lovely to be with you. And this has just been a delight.
Thank you very much. Till soon. Thank you, Elliot.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Take a seat, take a breath, let your heart unwind. There's a story in your soul waiting to shine. Pour a cup, lay the cards, let the magic flow. Every path has a meaning, every heart will know. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the highs and the lows, it's gonna be alright. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe. She's a dreamer, a healer, a seeker, a friend. Every story has a lesson, a love with no end. In the shuffle of life, we find what is true. Spirit's been waiting, just calling to you. We all have a journey, we all have a light. Through the whispers of fate, we'll find it tonight. At the TarotJo Cafe, let's talk for a while. Sip on some wisdom, leave here with a smile. The world feels lighter when we share our way. So pull up a chair at the TarotJo Cafe. Through laughter and lessons,